Hello and welcome into this week's edition of The Walkthrough. I'm your host, Joe Macheca. Happy 4th of July weekend, everybody. Appreciate everyone tuning in to this show Sunday night of 4th of July weekend. I'm obviously home back in Indiana. Had a really good 4th of July weekend, all that jazz. Saw you guys, everyone on Tuesday with GC Live Talking Tuesdays with Mike Uva. So that was a whole lot of fun. Hope everyone's 4th of July weekend was great. Again, Big Red checking in. How we doing? But yeah, a lot of fun stuff to talk about tonight. Getting through it all. First off, is the latest commitment in the class of 2025 for South Carolina football. That would be 3-star linebacker Jaden Breaker out of Georgia. South Gwinnett, Snellville, Georgia, 6'2.5". South Carolina's got him at 6'3", 6'3", 210. I mean, the kid can fly around the field. Another guy with really, really high upside on tape. On three's industry ranking has him at a 3-star. Again, a really high ceiling guy that has a lot of potential to go places. South Carolina beat out schools like Rutgers, Utah, and whatnot. Jacob Altman checking in. How we doing, Jacob? Big Red also as well. Gentlemen, hope well. But yeah, Jaden Breaker, the latest addition to South Carolina's 2025 recruiting class that is starting to fill out, right? Still a long ways to go, but you currently sit 25th nationally for your 2025 recruiting class. There's a lot of places you can go with this, commitment or this recruiting class, right? You're supposed to go up, right? You'd want, this recruiting class to go up. Big Red asks, what could be our biggest need for the class of 2025? Well, Big Red, let's look at it, right? Going down the list, we got cornerback Shamari Earls leading the class, wide receiver Brian Rowe. I'll get to the cornerback and the wide receiver position. Obviously, there was big question marks in terms of those two positions going into this year. So Shamari Earls leading the way. I think this kid's a stud. But what else we need in the South Carolina class of 2025? I know Shed Surratt, that's another big addition, big interior offensive lineman. I know you've been filling up the offensive line room recently. Could go get another offensive lineman. I think Anthony Addison is a dog. He's going to go up. I think he's one of the underrated guys in that class. Jaquavius Dodd is well committed, 4-star guy, according to the On3 industry ranking. Just more dogs for Sterling Lucas and Travian Robertson on the defensive line. Caleb Williams is another one of those guys that they're really excited about. A little underrated right now, but again, could see his way up. But in terms of positional needs, Big Red, to answer your question here, the biggest positional need I see right now for 2025 is that receiver, right? Even though you have Brian Rowe, and also too, I mean, I think just a splash commitment, right? I think Earls was big, Rowe's pretty big as well, but On3's only got him at a 3-star. 24/7 and ESPN have him at 4. I think Rowe's another guy that, I mean, super undervalued as well. So again, I think there are a couple guys, as we always see, after they commit, tend to drop down after committing to South Carolina, which I don't necessarily understand. But Rowe's one of those guys that, again, really high upside. Positionally, again, I think a couple offensive linemen. I think you're set in the edge room with Addison and the other guy as well. Jaquel Holman's also another undersized, underrated dog. 6'1", pretty big kid as well. Holman's another guy to watch, but you're getting your linebackers in this class. That is for sure, especially with Breaker coming on. Puppy Sellers routing out the class. Kobe Sakya-Pra. Also really, really, really good talent in there as well. 6'3", a lot of size. Upside guy in the edge room. AJ Holloway's another linebacker that's in this class, and that falls along the line with Breaker. So the biggest need right now, Big Red, in terms of just overall for this class is like that. Shamari flipped to UGA today. That's right. I remember that was ongoing. I haven't updated it. Yeah. No. So again, now you're left with literally with Brian Rowe leading off your class. So I mean, you're gonna drop down. I forgot. I missed that Earl's flip today. But yeah, that was also kind of in the water. But yeah, gotta hold on to Brian Rowe. Jay Diz hitting it right on the head, right? So I mean, yeah, you need a splash in this class, Big Red, to get back to your question. But And you certainly lost one of them in this class with Earls. And it just kind of goes to say, like, it's tough sledding recruiting in the SEC. And when you're in a position like South Carolina, Georgia can come knocking at any point and say, hey, come play for us. And simply, shows with this Earls commitment as well. So, yeah, Rose your guy right now in this class, but yeah, you need some more firepower, Big Red, in this class of 2025, because again, I think this 2025 class, Surratt's a nice touch, but 25th in the country is not good. You're going to go down, especially after leaving or after losing Earls as well. Birds who fly checking in. Honestly, the biggest need for 25 is to win games in 24, make a bowl game, and that's it. That's not asking for too much. Yeah, absolutely. And so it's cool, man. I mean, Bird, I think you're hitting the nail on the head here. I think, to resurrect this class of 2025, you're going to need to, really, really, do some damage, this season, right? Because you're starting to get overlooked again. And I don't know if it was a matter of under recruiting the class of 2025. But again, you have to be better, because there's a lot of teams in this class of 2025 in these recruiting rankings that you should be ahead, right? You should be ahead of. You're dropping like a rock, so you need to get better at it. I mean, Ohio State, Alabama, the top 5, top 6, LSU, Clemson's up there, A&M. You're not really duking it out with A&M as much. Another SEC team, Oklahoma in the SEC, Miami. I think you could pull in a better class than Florida State's up there as well. It begs the question. Penn State, Texas is going to be hard to beat. Also, this recruiting cycle is far from over. There's still a long ways to go from signing day, even though we are 55 days away from football, which is why we're getting at it. Mari Patterson checking in. Good to see him. Jacob Altman says, I see a path. 7 wins. Yeah, and we'll break down the schedule as well. I'll do that next week on this show. I'll give my own full deep dive, but we'll be doing that on Talking Tuesdays this week, so stay tuned to that. And I'll be sure to the games that you need to win, the games that you probably should win, and yada yada, and we'll go from there. But we're getting an ad here, Apple TV, as we're showing the recruiting rankings for 2025 here. But South Carolina ranking all the way down at 20. Dropping currently 28 now after Earls commits or flips his commitment to UGA. So you're dropping like a rock here. And so you need some firepower in this class, and you need it to come quickly. Big Red ass. Brandon, this is right on the money here too. This seems to be a bad recruiting class. We have no commits in the top 250. Yeah, again, it's I think, from my understanding is that, it's just an off class. Last year's class was the bigger one, and this is just kind of the ebbs and flows of recruiting here, right? That you put together some good classes, you have a setback, and ones like that, but this is where you can lean on the portal, right? Is when you bring in not necessarily a bad class, but a class that doesn't live up to your expectation and your liking. So, Brandon, yeah, absolutely, it's just not necessarily on track. Big Red asks, is it better to get players in a package deal with players recruiting their friends? Could that be a problem if one of them transfers, decommits? Yeah, it can definitely be a problem if one of them transfers, decommits. And then also too, I mean, I think the package deal exists to an extent, right? I think you want to recruit guys that have friends that are really good, but you're not recruiting a kid simply because his buddy is a stud athlete, right? So we'll see. And again, I don't think it's necessary. Like, you're not recruiting players simply based on the package deal. But again, like there's certainly some cases out there where, like, if a Jadeveon Clowney type of player, comes through and he's like, hey, or his buddy is kind of a decent player too. Yeah, obviously you're gonna try to get his buddy too. So I think it's a case by case basis, Big Red. But it really depends, and especially nowadays with everything, the way that the portal is, the way the recruiting is, everything, and how that all goes. It's tough. It really is tough to hold a guy down when you're kind of relying on that. JD says, need all the defensive tackles we can grab, have to win this year. Yeah, absolutely. And I think the one defensive tackle in this class that that Travion Robertson's certainly excited about is Caleb Williams. 3-star kid, really underrated. Certainly not a quarterback, but this defensive lineman here, Chesterfield, Virginia. Caleb Williams, they really like him inside the building, and from what we know about him. So be on the lookout for him. Jay Diz, I think this kid could be good and is certainly the defensive tackle commit for this class as well. Mary says, where should we be in the rankings? Under over 26 with 55 days left. How can we move up? Well, Mary, I think, moving up is one thing, by just recruiting guys that have, or like obviously getting commitments from guys, right? 4-star guys, the more 4-stars you can land, the better. And I think that obviously a 5-star helps astronomically is moving up. And that was kind of what I was getting at the beginning of the show is how do you fix this, right? What do you need in this class? And it's a splash, right? You need a splash. Where that may be, is still yet to be determined because there's still a couple guys out there that South Carolina still could land. But again, WJM4 makes a good point here. UGA is snatching up all of the high level targets. Yeah, it's crazy. UGA just comes knocking, and it's a quick flip right away. So Jay Diz checking in with Amari, Steven Bessinger checking in with the show. What's going on, Nugget Boy as well? How we doing? But yeah, I think, Jay Diz going back. I think, Caleb Williams is your guy. They're really, really, really excited about him. And then looking back at this class as a whole, still a lot of room to grow. And I think you need to come up from that 28th spot, because you lost a guy like Shamari Earls in a position of need too. We all know about the cornerback battle that's going on. Who's going to line up across from OD Fortune? I'll get there. That's one of my off-season questions that's kind of rolling into this, summer ball and everything like that. Is that who the heck is going to start out at cornerback? So that's another thing I'm watching. Emmett says it won't be as bad on this class if we just hit the transfer portal hard the next 2 years and then get back on track with high school kids next year. Yeah, exactly. Emmett, this is the way, that collegiate athletics is kind of balancing out. And Shane talked about it too, and I think it's beneficial for college football. And the transfer portal is beneficial for college football when you have cases like this, right? Because, when you under recruit or you're not able to push a recruiting class, across the line as much, you can go into the portal and really pick guys out and get some real talent in rooms where you're, kind of lacking, right? One of those being the wide receiver room, as well. And I think, class of 2025, Brian Rose, the one guy that right now that's going to help out this wide receiver room, and you need to go get more in the portal if they don't start recruiting. Nugget Boy asks hey Joe, do you know what will be the starting defense lineup? No, but certainly can speculate, right? And I'll be sure one of these weeks coming up, I'm going to do a full roster deep dive and try to give, my starting 11 and all that. But obviously I think, we all kind of know who the big dogs are going to be on defense. Debo Williams, Tonka Hemingway, Alex Huntley, Dylan Stewart's certainly going to, rise up the ranks. I don't think he starts right away, but I think it's certainly, a name to watch. And Nugget, I'll be sure to, get a full roster deep dive and again go through, who I think is going to start and all that in weeks coming up. But as we get closer to football, we're getting close. 55 days away once again. Big Red says, what's the highest or what's the play to get high level players to come to Carolina and keep them from teams like UGA, Bama, and Texas? Yeah, it's a tough sell when you have UGA, Bama, and Texas recruiting in your backyard. And William, I see your point next, and I'll get to that as well. But what is the play, Big Red? It seems to be the question that's haunting this school right now, because you're just having Georgia, come through and scoop all these players away from your backyard, and it's tough, right? How do you rebound from that? How do you establish relevancy again to win recruiting battles like that? And I mean, there's a lot of different answers to that question. I think one of them, I mean, it's obviously NIL. It's always been NIL. It will be NIL for the future, right? You have to have money to spend on high talent guys and be able to, afford those players is one thing. And that's the nature of collegiate athletics now. It's the sad part about it. But I think, another thing that you have to sell is help this program like get back onto the next level, right? So all of that energy and good feeling that you had in the first 2 years of the Beamer regime, I think you need to tap into that, right? The whole sandstorm, the sunglasses, we're the underrated team and yet we're really good. We can still draw, and obviously Columbia, the fan base is a really big sell for this program and for this school too. So I mean, I don't see why the fan base isn't one of them, but how it's tough. And I think that's what they're trying to figure out right now is, how you stop UGA and Bama and Texas from knocking on this kid's door and getting them to sign essentially before they leave. Right. And now that's not in reference to any particular recruiter or anything like that. But I'm just saying, like when the big dogs come knocking and promise you playing time, lots of money, and pretty much whatever else you wanted to go to, their school, it's going to be hard to turn down, right? So I don't know, Big Red. It's tough. I think it starts at the ground root. So you gotta build up, and success is the answer. Success on the field is the main answer to that. But again, also all starts with NIL too. William Jones says Nick Harbor will show his worth. Can't wait. Absolutely. And again, I'm going to get into some offseason questions here. But one of them being is the wide receiver room, right? Who will, or some of the bigger questions of this show and of this offseason for Gamecock football are, a lot of positional battles. And as Mike Yuva did a really good job of, if you're subscribing to Gamecock Central, you can go check that article out right now. Of highlighting some position groups that he thinks, will be a battle throughout summer camp. And one of those, I'm going to highlight on one of them, is the wide receiver position. William mentioned it already. Nick Harbor is your guy in that receiver room right now. And obviously you added a lot of talented transfers. You added a lot of transfers in that wide receiver room, right? Gage Larvaday, Damari Huggins, Bruce, really talented guys. But again, you're returning 3 of your top 10 leading receivers for 2024 out of the 2023 season. One of them was Josh Simon, who was 4th. Josh Simon's a tight end, as we know. And then Nick Harbor, 6th in receiving as a true freshman. And then Luke Doty was also scratched the top 10. Who's also playing receiver / quarterback. And we know about Luke Doty's role. But you're returning 3 guys in your top 10 for receiving. So it's going to be a big question mark out of who comes out of it. I think Harbor's obviously one of them. I think, your 2 transfers, you want to see him step up. You've got a bunch of guys in the room that can, do it. But again, I think, you need Larvadane to step up. You need Amari Huggins Bruce to step up. Nick Harbor as well. You need him to be the guy, as William says. Nick Harbor will show his worth. Can't wait. Yeah, you really need Nick Harbor to step up and have a big sophomore campaign. You put a lot of weight on his shoulders last season, right? And having to step up and kind of resurrect this receiving core out of nothing. And so it was good for Harbor to get the reps, but now there's a lot more on his plate, especially as a 5-star and especially after running all the track and all that. The expectations for this kid are going to be astronomical. And I think he lives up to them? Yeah, I think he does, right? I think, he's really, really talented kid. And now when you factor in, with a really dynamic quarterback and you just have a lot of playmakers on this offense. I think Harper's one of them. He's a very big story to why, this offense is going to find success. Saturday Night Lights, check it in. Any reason why we have guys we are not offering in the top 250? Is it a fit issue or are coaches told not to recruit certain regions? Saturday Night Lights, I think it's more of a matter of, using your resources where you can use them, right? You can't spend time with every single guy in the 250, right? So they're recruiting guys that they know about, that they know are interested, that they have a chance to go get. It's a long process of, selecting guys and finding dudes too. It's not as simple as going on 3 and just going down the website and just finding guys like that. Because again, it's all subjective. You do need to find some diamonds in the rough as well. So I think it's a time and a resources standpoint more than. And then again, when this, the squad, this program finds their fit, they make their short list similar to, the NFL draft almost, right? Where you have a big short list of guys coming in. You want guys to work out, and then you're spending your time and your resources trying to get guys to come to your school. So I think that's kind of the reason behind that one. WJM forces no guarantee the high school recruits will stay more than a year. Portal may be more important. Yeah, and it's an interesting debacle here, right? Because again, it's gonna mean that you're gonna have to rely on the portal next year or the year after, right? If you're taking a step back in recruiting, that means you really have to rely on the portal. And really go get some guys and have success in that, right? There's no guarantees on the other side of the portal either, right? Because I mean, yeah, like you're gonna need to pick up the slack of this 2025 class in the transfer portal, but there's no guarantees that it's going to be as good as you could have gotten this recruiting class. So that's where, the dominoes or this 50-50 game that these coaches have to play comes into play, right? So again, no guarantee high school recruits will stay more than a year, but no guarantee that transfer portal guys will be there, number one. And number two, with that also, stick around at your school and be any good too. Because I mean, I'm sure this chat knows as well as I do. We've seen guys transfer to South Carolina and then be absolute misses, right? So that's what you got there. Jay Diz, SC is loaded with high school players for the next couple of years. Really need to make a statement on the field this year. I think we can start 4-0, get some hype back into the program. Yeah, absolutely, Jay Diz. And as I was telling, I think it was Nugget Boy. Yeah, I will be doing a full schedule deep dive here soon because, again, we're 55 days away from football. I'm trying to keep the content schedule, keep all the good stuff towards the end, really build up the momentum going in towards football season. But, yeah, I think winning games certainly helps a lot with recruiting. Plain and simple. That's how you get back onto the stage where you're competing with Bama and Texas and OU and Georgia and recruiting again. So this season you're going to need a fast start. Again, when we go through the schedule, I'll go through game by game. Hypothetical: could they win this one? Could they win that one? What is that going to mean? Is everyone going to be on the bandwagon? Or are they not going to be? It'll be interesting. We'll have to see. Nugget Boys just haven't really listened to the radio, but what is the offense looking like as far as running back or wide receiver? Running back is set, right? You added Rocket Sanders, you added Oscar Attaway, Jawarren Howell, another talented guy, and then you mix him in there with Juju McDowell as well. So you got a lot of young studs in that room. Fresh, brand new coach as well that seems to be making his ways. So running back, you should be able to run the ball. You probably need to run the ball a lot and find success with it if you want to. And then wide receiver, again, you're returning 3 of your top 10 receivers from last year. One of those being the true freshman and Nick Harbor, or now sophomore and Nick Harbor. Josh Simon was another one of those guys. Really looking forward to watching him at tight end. But wide receiver, you added Amari Huggins, Bruce, Gage Larvadane, a couple of transfer guys that can come shake this room. And then you also have a guy like Mazio Bennett who can light the room on fire. I mean, he's really good, a little bit undersized for the SEC, but I mean, man, oh man, can the kid compete? He brings the fire to everything that he does. And is going to be a great addition to this room. And, I think super beneficial from a competition standpoint, number one, but also might see the field by the end of the year, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know. We'll see. I think wide receivers, it's a tough room, right? Who's going to come out of it? We'll see. And how is that going to pan out for Mike Furry? We'll see. Again, I love Coach Furry. I think he's a good fit. Now it's just down to the development side. Jay Diz says Kirby has made it a point to come after our top recruits. Really smart move to keep us down. Yeah, keep us down and more of a matter. Jay Diz, I think it was just a matter of Kirby being like, oh, wait, hey, they like this kid. They're probably going to get this kid. Like, why don't we take a shot at him? Maybe, hey, we missed it. Kirby's just sifting. He's just looking at what he missed to me, right? Like, if South Carolina or, say, Kentucky or Missouri or whatever kind of, it's tough to split the SEC into tiers and put South Carolina on the lower tier, but I digress. Like if they come out with a guy that's just a stud and an underrated like 4-star guy, Kirby's gonna get pissed, right? Like, I mean, who wouldn't be? So it's one of those guys that you missed, I think, is more or less from what Kirby's doing. And sure enough, yeah, it helps when teams you're competing against don't have the good players. Big Red says, should players be required to get back NIL if they transfer from a school? How could that be regulated? I don't know how it could be regulated. I think, once money is spent, it's spent. There's also, we all know that there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that we don't necessarily know about. And so there's, I don't know if there's full restitution for, a player transferring if you can get back NIL. And now I think there is some quasi way to do it where it's a contractual agreement, and if the money never enters, the account or whatever. I don't know, or maybe it goes into like a trust fund or something. I think that's the only way that you do it. But again, if you give any freshman or any transfer kid, certain amount of money, they're gonna spend it in one way or another, right? So I don't know, Big Red. I think it's a great idea, and if it were in the foundation of these rules and all this stuff coming out as collegiate athletics changes, like I think it would be awesome, but I just don't think that's how it is or how it's going to shift towards. Steven says, any idea who the welcome home for today is? Yes, but I can't talk. Like it's not my news to break. So, Steven, no dice on that one. But again, there was a welcome home today, which is also really, really good. Adding to that 2025 class as you lost one with Shamari Earls today. Mark Poe says, whenever you don't have the bread in NIL, you're going to lose 10 times. Recruiting has changed, and unfortunately, the top dollar is going to get top talent. Yes, absolutely. And Georgia is one of those schools. Bama is one of those schools. Texas and OU are those schools. And it sucks that they're joining the league, but I mean, hey, more money for you at the end of the day, right? But so, I mean, Mark's making a good point here. Never a bad time to donate to Garnet Trust as well. Go to garnettrust.com to learn more. And help out, find how you can help out student athletes as well. William says he agrees. No problem, William. Appreciate you tuning in as always. Martin says Shamari Earls is a good player. It's Kirby's job to get good players on his team, and it's that simple. I don't think it's personal. He just does his job and is good at it. Yeah, damn good at it too. Kirby Smart is darn good at his job, man. And picking apart recruits, picking apart recruiting classes, and the rest of the SEC as it goes. So, it's Kirby is really good at his job. And I don't know what's going to stop him anytime soon. Jay Diss says Harbor is really an X factor this year. Once he figures things out, he will put the fear in some DBs and coaches. We need that deep threat. Yeah, I think he can be the deep threat too. And with that kind of size, it opens up a world of things you can do. Now, Harbor's I think the growing pains for Nick Harbor this year are gonna be, facing a double team and catching balls in traffic and really having to work to get open. Because last year you knew who he was, but it wasn't as dynamic. I think he's going to get out in this space a lot this year. He's going to show off his speed, and then teams are going to double team him, right? So there's going to be that kind of growing pain when you're the number one, or you're the number one in terms of who the defense is going to try to stop in terms of your receiving core. So I think that's his biggest, hurdle this year. It's not track, and no pun intended there. But it's not track. It's not, it might be catching the football a little bit. Who knows? Struggled with that a little bit last year as well. But if you can catch the football, it's going to be the growing pain is going to be dealing with the success, right? What comes with the success and guys locking you down and having their best cornerback on you, because he's going to get better matchups as he gets better. So, I agree. Martin says, yeah, Harbor has been working hard, which is good. Yeah, he's right back into football. No, don't have to worry about the Olympics or anything like that. As cool as that would have been, no dice, right? So not worried about it at all. Harbor, so far within my knowledge, has potential to be the best deep threat wide receiver, hoping him to become number one, if not number two. Yeah, in my eyes, he should be the number one right now. But if there's somebody who outworks him, rightfully so, the number one. But he should be. So we'll see. Oklahoma coming to South Carolina too. Yeah, absolutely. William making a good point there. Oklahoma and Texas now. Texas kind of are always did, but Venables spent all his time at Clemson, right? So he knows the SEC or South Carolina even like is the back of his hand, right? So he knows how to recruit in state, and it's going to be interesting. But yeah, no, it's everybody is coming to the SEC, and it's going to be tough recruiting. Martin says he'll be happy with the high school class if the Gamecocks can get Malik Clark. Yeah, Malik Clark would be a dog. It would be an addition. James Guy, go Vols. I don't know why we got any volunteers in this class or in this chat, but here we go. James, appreciate you tuning in. James Guy, quit trolling. This is South Carolina. Yes, absolutely. James says should have made Tennessee South Carolina an annual matchup. Says that it is a good rivalry. Yeah, no, I firmly agree with this. I thought the rivalry kicked off after the upset, right? When nobody expected it, and just kind of the back and forth and the banter that the fans had uh, because of that game has been great. But no, I agree. Needed to be an annual matchup. Get it on the schedule soon. Thank you if you're watching this. Probably not, but get the Tennessee South Carolina game back on the schedule. Nugget Boy says we just got to find out. We got about 1.5 months left till opening Saturday. 55 days, Nugget Boy. 55 days. William says Georgia is a better rivalry. Or is a bigger rivalry. I don't know. I mean, it's where do you stack Georgia? Because for me, I think it is the Tennessee series because you've had the more recent success against Tennessee, right? And Georgia is going to be a perennial powerhouse, while Tennessee is kind of trying to find their way into being a perennial powerhouse in football. And I think South Carolina upsetting them, it gives it, that kind of thing. But William, I'm sure you can make a pretty good case for this Georgia rivalry. So I'd love to hear it. JD's said I would be showing Harbor and Simon film of Sydney and AJ working on those third down and red zone pass plays. The way that they would just body out the DB like their rebounding was money. Yeah, it's going to be. I expect to see a lot of that. Harbor's going to use all of his size in the end zone, and it's going to be really good, really fun to watch as well. William says UGA will have a lot of talent standing on the sidelines. They all can't play. Again, you hit or miss on some guys. Big Red says Harbor skipping Olympic qualifying could be a good sign for South Carolina. He's committing to football, apparently. I think it's a good sign if he's committing to football. If this was a choice from him, I think it's a really good sign. I think it means he's hungry. It means he's ready to go, ready to focus on football and prove a lot of people who were sleeping on him and saying, you need to, get off a track and focus on football. I was probably one of those people at one of those points. But again, I think it's good for him. And if it's his decision and he's really motivated to do so, even better, right? I think a hungry Nick Harbor is a dangerous one. So yeah, Josh Wilson, Beamer has anything less than 7 wins, he's gone. Yeah, interesting. I mean, I've been talking about this on this show a lot, and necessarily, I don't think Shane Beamer's job is in question right now, but it's something to watch. If things go really, really, really south, I don't think it's anything close to Josh's prediction here. 7 wins this year, and again, it's steep, but the expectations of this school are different from everywhere else, right? So it's like it is going to be interesting to see where you end up. We're going to do a scheduled deep dive here coming up here soon, as we are getting closer to football and closer to summer camp as well. But yeah, there's a lot to unpack with that whole debacle, and how many wins do you need to get there, right? So, Kaki Twan says Shane isn't the guy, never jumped on the train. He's a good guy, nice family, but not a head coach. Wow, we got some people in here who feel differently about it. Interesting. And VK says we didn't lose Earls to UGA due to NIL. We lost because UGA has lost 4 games in like 4 years, and Kirby is a great defense. This. VK, you're hitting the nail on the head. If there's people on Twitter tonight that are complaining, saying that we didn't have enough money to pay Shamari Earls, I think you're horribly mistaken. I think we lost Earls to UGA, again, what VK is saying here, because Kirby's a really, really, really good coach, and it's Georgia. I think you have to be better to expect better. VK's hitting the nail on the head. Josh Wilson says he's a good recruiter, head coach, but will prove why we should have gotten the job. And Ray will have to bring in somebody who's proven. Go 1-2. We're not going bowling. Yeah, I disagree. I mean, again, I'll get into my whole prediction of what the schedule looks like, how many games you should win, stuff like that. But again, if you don't win a lot of games, I think Shane Beamer certainly will be on the hot seat. But long ways to go before that. We haven't even started playing football here yet. Nugget Boy says Clemson has to be our biggest rivalry, no doubt. Yeah, absolutely. I think, in terms of your biggest SEC rivalry right now, it's probably Florida. I don't know. You have to correct me on that one. Martin says other coaches are negative recruiting by saying Beamer is going to be fired, and our fans posting saying fire Beamer aren't helping anything. Recruits see that and discourages them from committing. This is another good point, Martin. yeah, you can't be saying that, and the fan base needs to pick a side, right? Because you did it with baseball, and we saw what happened with that. Baseball team sputtered out. There was no morale in the team, and for the back half, even I'd say even most of the year, there was the morale was not up there. So, I'm with it. Don't tweet at recruits. Number one, just because a recruit doesn't pick your school doesn't mean that you need to go tweet negative things about him and his family. Number one, as it always is, do not tweet about recruits or tweet at recruits. But then also too, yeah, it's the nature of the business, right? Coaches are going to say that. And again, fans just not helping. Peyton says, I think it's important. South Carolina's a good year for recruiting sake. Seems like we are trending down. Yeah, absolutely. Earlier on in the show, again, broke down just kind of the rankings and missed Shamari Earls flipping to Georgia. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. Again, when you have a down year or a down recruiting class, I think you have to recruit the portal even more. So William says Nugget Boy SEC rivalry, but no doubt. Yeah, Batman Gummy says Tennessee is 100% our biggest rivalry. The fans hate each other. Our biggest SEC rivalry. I got you now. But yeah, I would agree simply because of the discourse between Vol fans and South Carolina fans. It's like a civil war every single time you open Twitter and these two teams are playing. It's like the age old joke. Why do all the trees in Kentucky lean north because Tennessee or lean south because Kentucky sucks or Tennessee sucks. I butchered that joke. Anyways, but yeah, no, I think Tennessee is the biggest rivalry in the SEC, without a doubt. Florida's up there. I don't know. I personally, as a former student and whatnot in South Carolina, I think there's still some stake in Florida. Still some stake in Florida in terms of a rivalry as well. Big Red says, any chance we can get some of these guys in the portal if they can't play at said school? Could some of these guys come back and wear garnet black? Yeah, I think that's another thing that resonates in the transfer portal, is especially with guys that hit the portal real early, go to a school, and then make that second decision to leave. I think nowadays you're seeing coaches who recruited guys slide back into the picture when you were recruiting them, and so now you'll see that in the portal. Second choices become the first ones, and there you go. So Big Red, yeah, most certainly. Now it's not every case, right? But I mean, certainly in the picture. How many games does South Carolina need to win to help the recruiting? At least 7. At least 7 in my mind. To help it as a complete and obvious, yeah, recruiting went up because of that. 7 games, and you need an upset for sure. Jay Diz says it should be a win-win this year. I think we can win 8 this year. If we go 5-7, then we need to fire Beams. If we go 6-6, that would be a killer because Beams won't be fired, but no help to recruiting. Hitting the nail on the head again here. 6 wins. Not anything below 6 wins is not, or 6 wins or less is not helping recruiting at all. And again, 5-7 is putting Shane Beamer on the hot seat. So, and granted, one down year, sure, is one thing, but these are supposed to be the years that are supposed to be picking up, and supposed to be going. So Batman Gummy says, I feel like Florida's owned us too much compared to Georgia and Tennessee. See, Batman Gummies, I feel differently. And then granted, Florida and football, it's been a couple fluke games these last couple of years. But I don't know. I think Georgia's been smoking you these last couple of years. Now, again, I think you're right. And throughout the process of the show, Tennessee is probably the obvious answer for SEC rivalry. But do you think Tennessee considers us a rival? That's also another thing, right? Is does your rival consider you number one? And I mean, Clemson is obviously our number one, but I don't know if Tennessee could say the same thing about us in the SEC. But I don't know. We'll see. Peyton says 8-5 with a bowl game win. Thoughts? I think it helps astronomically. That's a step in the right direction. Gets the program back to where you need. Again, you need a big win, 8-5, but it's doable, right? I think the ceiling for this team is 9 wins with a bowl game. But yeah, 8-5 with a bowl game is a step in the right direction. Shane's continuing on, keeping his job, all that jazz, and all that fun stuff. But yeah, Peyton's certainly doable. Big Red was last year an anomaly because of injury, and how can we sell that to recruits? it's hard. It's a hard sell to recruits, right? I think last year was an anomaly because of injury, number one, but then also too, I think, you were just tight in some spots. You didn't have enough talent in certain spots, right? So that's what this year's for. Try to get all that talent out of the transfer portal and then go from there. But I don't know how you sell it to recruits. I think, it's rebuilding year. And you use that kind of jargon to sell it. Batman Gummy says most Tennessee fans have talked to hate South Carolina and consider them a rivalry. Absolutely. I'm with it. I certainly see all the discourse that all the fans have gotten, everyone's gotten, Tennessee into. And rightfully so. Having a running back room with a D2 transfer and backup quarterback is unacceptable. Yeah, that's also part of last season. That's what I'm saying. It's the talent in certain spots last season was just not good enough. It was not good enough. But yeah, Batman Gummy's hitting the nail on the head there. Wrapping up, I guess, a couple big questions headed back into camp. Who's going to start at corner? Again, OD Fortune is going to step up. Judge Collier, I think, is gonna be the guy, and my sleeper for that one for the cornerback room is Julius Salmon. I think if he can get in, turn some heads, he will be the eventual starter at cornerback. Let's see. Last question for the day. Before I hit some ads and wrap things up, hit a couple more comments and stuff before I wrap things up. Who is going to represent South Carolina at SEC Media Days? We've got Media Days coming up on the horizon as well. We'll have all the coverage from it from a Gamecock Central standpoint. Mike and I, and Jack as well, having all the coverage from there. But who is going to represent Carolina at Media Days? Sound off in the comments who you want to see. But my picks pretty easy. I got Debo Williams. Very obvious, clear and obvious pick. I fully expect Debo to be at SEC Media Days in Dallas. Vershawn Lee is my next pick. Veteran offensive lineman, knows his program inside and out. Easy money, protecting your future star quarterback, all the guy that you have all the aspirations to. Vershawn Lee, easy pick for me. Then my last pick, Nicky Manwari is my last pick. I think nobody represents the state of South Carolina better in terms of a South Carolina football than the underrated guy that you brought in and turned into a superstar. Nicky Manwari, he's really good with the media. Really good player, really good ambassador of this program. So my three picks: Debo Williams, Nicky Manwari, Vershawn Lee, and I think Lenore's can be your dark horse. I think he can be your dark horse in this one. Do you bring him? I don't know. I don't know if you want to, trot him out there. I think the reason for sending Lenore's out there is out to Dallas would be to let him basically talk his ish. Say like, okay, yeah, we're really underrated right now, and we're going to be really good, and everyone's sleeping on us, and then it becomes an awfully harder task to follow back up with, sure, but I think it would be pretty baller if, Lenore's and got up there and was like, yeah, like nobody's talking about us. Just wait and see. And then you backed it up. So that's kind of the incentive for bringing Lenore sellers as well. So, yeah. Gonna hit some ads real quick before we wrap things up. Again, we'll get to a couple of the questions as well. A couple more questions I see in the comments before fully get things going. But first sponsor of the day is our good friend Clint Hammond of the Movement Mortgage Network. In need of help with your mortgage, call our good friend Clint Hammond of the Movement Mortgage Network. He's been in the mortgage industry since 2003, which allows him to help everyone from the first-time home buyer to the complicated and complex jumbo buyer. Whether you're looking to purchase a new home or refinance, nothing is more important than a well-thought-out financial strategy that comes with 5-star customer service. He's even helped out our very own Wes Mitchell and former Gamecock quarterback with their mortgages. So give our guy Clint a call. He's above us on all of our GC Live programming, 803-422-6797. Once again, 803-422-6797. You can call Clint Hammond and also reach him at clint.hammond.com for more of your mortgage needs. The show is also brought to you by Andy Luedecke of MyPerfectFranchise.net. This week's episode of The Walkthrough is brought to you by Andy Luedecke. Are you ready to leave the corporate rat race for the American dream? Looking for a side hustle while working your current job, wanting to diversify, build wealth, and or leave a legacy? Andy can help. Andy's a franchise consultant as well as a franchise owner and helps people find franchises that fit their skill sets, financial requirements, time to commit, and more. His services are 100% free. He's here to help you with any questions about business ownership. You can contact him, again, on your screen at Andy at MyPerfectFranchise.net. You can also reach him over the phone at 404-973-9901. Once again, 404-973-9901. Again, wrapping things up here from this week's edition of The Walkthrough. Going to give another comment. Batman Gummy says, bring our best player, Debo Williams, to SEC Media Days. I agree completely. Big Red, is Lenore's our starter for sure, or is the position still our limbo? Yeah, he's probably going to be the starter for sure. Unless Robbie Ashford goes out in camp and throws for like 1,600 yards in like 2 weeks. I think it's Lenore's. And then Robbie, a very serviceable backup. Robbie Ashford's a great, Parson grade, and we'll see, like, again, knock on wood, doing a lot here. That Lenore's doesn't go down, but I think Robbie's the guy. Batman Gummy says, I agree. J Diz says, any thoughts on Taylor Edwards? Yeah, I mean, I think it's certainly it's been done, right? You just lost your director of player personnel. I think it's a very important position that they got to go fill. You got to go fill a good one, right? Taylor had a lot of experience. I wish Taylor the best. Really good person. From my interactions with him. So really good guy, and wishing him the best. But now you got to go, fill a spot that's really important to the program. Your director of player personnel. So if you can make a home run hire here, awesome. And you kind of need to, because there were some things. And again, I'm not going to address any of the rumors or anything else swirling about this. But there were some things that were going on that you just needed gone, and so you make them change. So this is a very important position to be filled, and again, nothing else on it from me, at least for now. But this position is going to be really important to fill, and you need to make a home run hire with this one for sure. Kakatuan says, with all the injuries plagued this team since he took over, and he still keeps some strength and conditioning coach. Yeah, some people are certainly adamant over Luedecke being gone. Batman Gummy says, the thing that annoys me about outsiders talking about South Carolina is their lack of knowledge of the team. Yeah, no kidding. People overshooting South Carolina compared to last year, especially with everything that Lenore Sellers is projected out to be. Would it shock you if South Carolina's picked 15th, only ahead of Vandy? No, not necessarily. No, I think all the other SEC writers are going to be sleeping on this team, and I don't think the rest of the country thinks this team is very good. To be quite honest with you, William Jones says, look for a run first offense this year. No kidding. I think the way that this running back room is stacked up, you're going to see a lot of running the football. You kind of need to in this climate of the SEC for sure. Batman says, I saw someone call us a bottom 3 talented roster in the SEC, and I just can't agree with that. No, I can't either. If you factor in, the development or where some of these guys should be at, or where, guys should be developing into. I certainly agree. I think maybe right now with what you have on paper, maybe not it, but again, you still need to develop guys, and that happens throughout the year and through summer. William says, I hope Rocket Sanders stays healthy. Me too, William. Me too. I think it'd be a whole different offense, and Linus getting in there too. Whole different offense if Rocket Sanders stays healthy. 100% agree. 100% agree. Well, all right. That's going to do it for this week's edition of the Walkthrough. Another big show tonight. Again, appreciate everyone tuning in. Hope your 4th of July weekend's great. Mine was spectacular. Spent it with some family. It's been great. But again, appreciate everyone tuning in. If you missed any of our show or any of my show tonight, check it out on GC Live's YouTube page. If you're not a subscriber, hit the little subscribe button. And then if you missed any of our show tonight, you can also hit that little bell icon right next to the subscribe button. Let you know anytime we go live. So appreciate everyone tuning in again. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we will see you on Tuesday.